who was presenting on a survey of priests. I think it was conducted in 2021 or 2022. I actually participated in this survey. My bishop recommended it. So this survey and some of the data on that. And there was this slide, one of these slides on his data points that really stunned me. It broke down ordination cohorts, so by what year you were ordained in, and your self-identification theologically. So how would I describe my own theology? As you go forward from about 1975, you see a dramatic shift in the theological self-description of priests by year of ordination. In 1975, a pretty sizable majority, probably a supermajority, would have described themselves as progressive or very progressive. By the time you get to 2022, you get to a majority of priests ordained in 2022 describing themselves as conservative or very conservative. And that right there is the fruit of this untold story of American Catholicism. And I was going to show you this slide because I have access to all of the slides of the convention. And I went looking for it, and I was just getting frustrated and puzzled. I remember the slide. It's like burned into my memory. This was, I'd kind of known this, but seeing the data put out there in a visual format was very striking. But as you can see here, maybe you can't see it, generational dynamics. This is where I was expecting to find the slide. And underneath that, we've got this very small text that says data embargoed until November of 2023. Oh, isn't that interesting? What happens in November of 2023 is the annual United States Conference of Catholic Bishops meeting. And looks like they're going to wait to get their eyes on that data themselves before they're going to release that to the general public. So anyway, that in my mind is the untold story of American Catholicism, of the retaking of the seminaries by people who I think are more supposed to be responsible, and the effect that is having on generations of priests now in ministry, and the rollout effect that's going to have across Catholicism in the United States for decades to come. And nobody's telling that story except for me. But the good news is that you're not stuck with just me anymore. We've got Jacob, Andrew, and Valerie. How are you all doing?
Hi, how you doing? Doing all right.
Jacob and Andrew, are you guys behaving yourselves?
We went to the gym.
Yes, sir.
Nice. And so now you've got to feed Andrew because he's hungry.
Yep.
All righty. Yeah, he's probably already hungry. I remember being in college.
He's 20. He's always hungry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, hey, man, just work it while you got it.
Yeah.
He's 6'4" and 20 years old.
Oh, okay. Well, he can eat a lot then.
Yep.
He doesn't look 6'4" on the camera right now.
Just you wait. Just like PBK.
He's leaning down. He's like,
Is he condescending to you then?
I guess. Yeah. But this is a really interesting story you're telling about taking this. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's actually kind of like Andrew Breitbart talks about, like, what's downstream of what, and you have to capture the high ground, and that really affects what else happens. So yeah.
It's there's something to be said about the middle, right? Because this was an observation I made to one of my colleagues at the convention, is that you had a fair number of guys who wanted to just be middle of the road, right? They just want to be good priests. They just want to run the program that they're given. And I'm pretty daggone sure that since 1975, the road, what counts as the middle of the road, has now changed a lot. Because, the priest that I'm staying with, he's a good man, and he just wants to be a middle of the road priest, right? He doesn't have a whole lot of big ideas. He's coming to a small town in North Dakota. He's just going to take care of the people here. But like the program that he's given is very different than what they were getting in 75, 85, 95.
Mm.
I mean, that's part of what the postmodernist idea, I think, really starting with Bernays in the 1920s. He recognized that there was this idea of, oh, some people just want to be in the middle. And if you want to move society, instead of staying within the discourse, you can kind of move the edges, which also moves the discussion. And that's how they made a lot of advances. And I think that's what we kind of have to undo, is you can't have dishonest bargaining positions. Like, you can't have an honest discussion with somebody who's taking bargaining positions. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Right. So like you're approaching it like, hey, we've got ideas. Let's just play around with these ideas. And the other party's like, I want something. And I'm approaching this like a business negotiation.
Yeah. Like I'm so when you're trying to decide, okay, what are we going to do? If I actually tell you, okay, this is what I think we should do, and the other person has an idea we should do something else, and they think, oh, if I give an opening shot, right? So, for example, let's talk about, I mean, I guess you could talk about like gay marriage or whatever, right? So, like, if I'm like, no gay marriage, and the other person's like, civil union, but if they push it beyond and they're like, hey, gay marriage, then maybe the middle of the roaders are like, hey, let's take a middle position, right? And like the middle position, like if you keep on pushing that out, I actually think that's what happened with Trump. Trump was like the guy that was like, he was the bargainer, you know?
He was a populist, so he wasn't a true conservative.
He wasn't a true conservative at all, but I think he did a lot of opening shots, right? He did a lot of things like he was trying to get somewhere, and he would, like, his wall, right? I don't think he actually wanted a big, beautiful wall across, you know. I think he wanted some fencing, and he figured, if I talk about a big, beautiful wall, then maybe I'll get some fencing, which he did.
Yeah. Bargaining, and yeah, it's a problem if you go to a business negotiation just to discuss ideas with interesting people. Like you're not gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Because they're coming and they got their elbows greased and they're ready to start hitting people, and you're just going to get pushed around like that. But the thing about the Catholic Church is we've got this monarchical structure, and the bishop can send in a new rector, and if he sends in the right guy, should be a general, right, and not an intellectual. Then the general can go in there and, in the space of about 2 years, they could have 95% staff turnover at the seminary, which is what happened at St. Paul Seminary, because they sent the right guy in there, and he just.
I'm happy to see it. I was actually, I was talking with John Van Donk, and his daughter works at a Catholic charity.
Okay.
And, I also, I've been volunteering, I told you, at a Catholic domestic violence shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think what's missing is leadership, but by, like, there's supposedly a priest, but for the shelter, he comes on Easter and Christmas. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Twice a year.
Yep. He doesn't really have any say in what goes on there.
and I just the people in the shelter, they need like this shelter used to be run by 200 nuns.
Mm-hmm.
0 nuns left.
Mm-hmm.
0 nuns left.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should join.
Yeah, I think you're a little too tall.
To become a nun? Yeah.
A little too tall to be a nun.
Mm.
6
Well-
feet's the max.
So do you know the Sisters of the Good Shepherd? Have you
I
heard
do
of
not.
them? So they're the ones who were known as the Magdalens
Okay.
and the Magdalene laundries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Trey, you're in Puerto Rico.
Oh my gosh,
What are
this
you
guy,
doing?
This guy.
You're in Puerto Rico. Go be in Puerto Rico.
Reception girls.
You know why I'm here? I'm waiting before our meeting that I am
Oh,
so helpful for our foundation of comfort that we're working on
Oh.
together. You know,
yes, we have a meeting
It's
in 40 minutes. Yes. So yeah, he's such a good man. He's in Puerto Rico, but he's still early, 40 minutes early for a meeting, as opposed to finding some girls to talk to.
there's a priest in the room. Come on, act decent. Come
I
on.
encourage talking to girls.
Thank
Thank
you.
Talking's fine.
Yeah.
I would be doing it if I wasn't a priest.
Thank you, Father Eric. Thank you.
Oh man, Adam from Ireland. He was telling me all about this young lady that he's meeting and all that, and I was like, 2 thumbs up, Adam. Get her done.
Get her done. Get her done. Yep. Get married, have lots of kids.
That's right.
That's the Catholic way in life.
That's the Catholic way in life, you know. Cheaper by the dozen.
So the nuns, yeah, like the trying to get. I mean, so for example, there was this family that just moved in, lots of kids, single mother. She fainted and had to go to the hospital, and like we have to take care of the kids as the staff, and like all the staff wants to leave at 5 p.m. because as opposed to when there used to be 200 nuns, guess what?
Yep. They just, this is life.
They
These are
did
my
not
children.
go home. Yeah, the nuns did not go home. They lived there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, man, that's another untold story. Is just the absolute collapse of women's religious orders, Just, like the chart in about 1970, it just goes straight down.
Well, they threw those Sisters of the Good Shepherd under the bus. They really did.
Yeah.
Especially in Ireland. They
Okay.
completely threw them under the bus. Like the Catholic Church has been apologizing in ways that I think is just way too much. It's nice to be like apologizing for any mistake you ever made, but at the same time you can't not defend thousands and thousands of nuns who did a lot of hard and good work,
Mm-hmm.
despite any like problems that they were. So they were very strict. Guess what? Irish Catholic women are strict.
It's just kind of like that, yeah.
I think that the nuns were less strict than if they had not nun people doing the same work. So like, I don't like the fact they threw the nuns under the bus. I don't.
Yeah. It's not good tactics to apologize to people who have no intention of forgiving you.
Never apologize to someone who will not forgive you, and never apologize to someone for wrongs that were not done to them.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I will not apologize to you for a wrong I did to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Correct. I just never thought about it. Yeah. I think, so I don't think a whole lot of that stuff would have come out until the 90s or the early 2000s though. And the problem was there already. It's like, in a lot of these communities, they They got rid of the habit, like they just changed everything overnight. We're not going to wear our habits. We're not going to pray and live in community anymore. We're going to start being career women or something. I don't know, but and it's just like that's not how this works, and it's not going to work if you try and work it like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's another just a precipitous decline. The only women's religious orders that are having any vocations nowadays are the ones that wear the habit, live in community, pray in community, and do their mission. So like
Religious communities.
actually religious, yes. Instead of just being, some single woman who I have to call sister for some reason. Show me. I could be in my sweatpants right now, and I got my collar on because I need to. Mark Lefebvre was here. He'd be very proud of the signals I'm sending into the world. So
Oh,
I very much approve of you wearing your collar, Father Eric. I bought Peter's 2 collared shirts. Unfortunately, his wife gave me the wrong size. So
yes, it's sad when it happens. I ordered some Italian clerical shirts like a year back, and I'm scared to open them because they came in the mail and I didn't try them on. So it's like, I sure hope that was the right size. See, I told you he would approve of that.
I got the size his wife gave. I considered buying a size larger just in case, but I didn't know if collared shirts already come a little bit oversized because they're so stuffy.
Yeah. It depends on the style too. Did you just get him with the little plastic tab that you stuff in there?
So I got him 2 of them. One of them was black with an actual collar and long sleeve. And if I remember correctly, the other one was light blue, like it was a Protestant one with a tab and short sleeves. So
Protestant and global South Catholicism. When you get to a really hot place, they stop wearing the black.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this problem with Catholic charities not having enough nuns and priests?
Well, that's
Catholicism 2.0.
Catholicism 2.0. I'm going to have to see what's in the update before I install it. Sometimes
It's like Vatican II, but better.
it's like Vatican II, real Vatican II. Yes, my contention that real Vatican II has never been tried. Actually, it has. It has. The best place that Vatican II was embodied was in the 1983 Code of Canon Law. They integrated that, and it's. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect because it ain't, and we shouldn't expect that kind of perfection. But it's pretty daggone good the way it works. If we decide that we're going to work it, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can have the best Code of Canon Law in the world, but if these hosers aren't applying it, then it doesn't do you any good. Yeah. No, man, it's the solution to the vocations crisis is just bread and butter Catholicism, as far as I'm concerned. Say the mass well, preach the gospel, don't be afraid. Do Eucharistic piety, encourage people to pray the rosary. Bible studies are fine. They're a little new, but I think they're working. So
encourage people to have kids, because if they have lots of kids, there will be one to take a hit for the team.
Yeah, take a hit for the team. Yes.
You know where I heard that first?
Who'd you hear that
Supreme Court Justice Scalia.
Yeah, about his son.
About his son. His son is a priest, so he talks about. He was talking about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I fielded my own baseball team, and one of my sons took a hit for the team. He became a Catholic priest." I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Yeah, and one thing that I'm starting to come to a greater and greater realization is that the Catholic Church just needs to really lean into the whole all male clergy thing. That is just like a foothold of, and I'm going to say this, I've said it on BOM, it's a foothold of anti-feminism that's actually really good, and praise God that we've managed to hold on to it. And even like Pope Francis has just shot it down every time it's come up. He calls it female machismo.
Good.
And only he could get away with that, right? Like I go around talking like that, I'm going to get crucified. But yeah, I've just noticed, letting men be men and women be women is actually something we got to do. We just got to encourage. You're always going to have that 10% that doesn't quite fit in. That's just how the world works.
Yeah, there's some trays in the world. Just gotta live with them.
Trey's just grinning because he doesn't want to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Or
Am I ticking Trey off, or am I making him happy? All right. He just, you know what? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's
Yep. Father, you are a father, so I gotta respect you.
Orthodox Judaism has had a few outbreaks of people trying to, God have mercy on our souls, create female rabbis, and thank God nothing has been egregiously like. We've always had female teachers who, I bring up the case of Nechama Leibowitz. She was a traditional Bible teacher, and she, for the entirety of her entire life, everybody called her Mora, which means teacher, and that's what everybody's always called their kindergarten teacher from the very beginning. And she taught Tanakh, Hebrew Bible, to literally hundreds of thousands of people, because she had a radio show in Israel, and she used to have these cards where she would ask questions and distribute these cards, and people would mail their answers into her, and she would respond to them. And like thousands of people used to mail these cards in every week, right?
Wow.
Yeah, she's known as one of the great, even in ultra Orthodox Judaism. She, like, in Hasidic circles, she was very well respected. But she never went around calling herself a rabbi. She never was in a position of authority over anyone. She was just a great teacher. And so that model of a great female teacher, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
But what all of Orthodox Judaism has been adamant about is a woman cannot be put in a place of authority over men. And even the Orthodox Union, which is the broadest, like, mainline Orthodox, they came out with a responsum a couple of years ago where they were very, very clear. No, this is not going to happen. Forget it. So.
Yeah. And I think that selling people, it's like a lot of this stuff tends to come out as like a career woman, and it's almost like people are looking at careers as if that's supposed to be, something that should be accessible to everybody, and is going to be a place where you're going to find a great deal of meaning and such. And most people's careers are really dumb, that they go and they slave away at their jobs, and hopefully they're doing something productive that's making things better but not worse. But the main reason they're there is to get their pay. Maybe they have a few good times along the way, but it's like all of these careers are just stupid. Like a vanishingly tiny percentage of anybody's career ever was like super interesting and fulfilling. Everybody else, we're just kind of hacking away at it.
So our favorite Native American law professor from Harvard, Elizabeth Warren, wrote a book. The Two Income Trap, with her daughter, where she explains how economically this idea of women working, while it pushes up the numbers in terms of economic, like how you measure economics, it's actually made families poorer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why. Like, why is Elizabeth Warren a politician? Like, she's not even good at lying. Like some of these guys, like I won't name names just because that's a little uncouth, but some of these guys, I know they're lying through their teeth, but I just want to believe it because they just seem like such a nice guy. I'd love to sit down and have a beer with them, right? But Elizabeth Warren doesn't have that energy at all. It's just like, you're spewing nonsense right now. You're too smart for that. It's sad and kind of pathetic.
So the sad thing is, in Israel with the religious parties, so there are religious parties they have a rabbinic council which leads them, and then they have people who stand for elections, right? And because in the religious community everybody expects them to be the least honorable, worst people in the world, like the politicians for the religious parties, none of them are well respected people.
But you don't need it. You just need to get me results. Look at evangelical Christian and I'll say conservative American Catholic support for one Donald John Trump, right? It's like, we were hacking away at Bill Clinton in the 90s for immorality, but if the guy works for us, that's how people are. That's the way it works.
But these members of Knesset, these parliament members for the religious parties, a large percentage of them have ended up in jail.
And Dante put a lot of his fellow Florentinians in hell. We're just realistic about how this works. She never worked for anyone but banks and insurance companies her whole career, often against individuals. Worst person, always protecting banks. It's truly terrible. Yeah, probably. We're getting too political here. It should be a happy place where we don't have to think about that kind of stuff. Anyway, what's the weather like in Los Angeles? Is it 70 degrees and beautiful still?
Yeah. The weather's, especially where I live, like the weather's always nice. Like I live 4 miles from the beach. And so like, yeah, it never gets bad. So yeah.
Preach it, Laura.
Laura should jump on.
She should. She's a free and independent woman, though. She can choose not to. She might have good reasons not to.
She has a family. She has a husband. She has kids.
Yeah. And she's got a video hidden behind PVK's paywall.
PVK is trying to get me to send money to YouTube. I have sent money to churches. I will not send money to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to sit here in ignorance about how women set the rules for their community.
I have lines I will not cross. I will not give money to YouTube beside what I am already giving way too much money to YouTube.
Like with premium, do you pay for premium or do you just...
I don't pay for premium. He kept on telling me you should put an ad blocker on. I don't think that's ethical.
Intellectual property doesn't exist. Like
that's not true.
No.
Look, if you don't want to use,
it's in my mind, so I own it. Like what?
Father Eric, is it ethical to use an ad blocker on YouTube?
Huh.
if you
I'm
don't
not
want to use the service, don't use the service. But like you're
Yeah.
using their service despite their terms, like obviously what they're trying, and you're confounding the way they make their money. I don't think it's ethical.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Is it ethical to go use the bathroom when the commercials are on TV? Or is it ethical to turn the radio? Yeah, you're bypassing the kind of,
No, but you're bypassing what their
Yeah,
actual rules.
yeah. Same thing with the going to the restroom using commercials.
No, like
Oh,
yeah.
you mean like the terms of service that everyone just scrolls through and like nobody reads? They
It's
click
their
on.
business model. No, they know you go to the bathroom. They know you click through. They know, but like using an actual ad blocker, I don't see how that's ethical.
AppLock doesn't work on mobile, so that's why I brought Beamer. So
now, I wanna
testing as an ethical base.
address Mr. Frondwith here. He says advertising is unethical. Sometimes I think, but if nobody knows that you have goods and services to trade, then you're kind of hosed. So you have to somehow tell people. Are you leaving, Trey?
No, I have a Catholic
Oh,
question.
you have a Catholic question. Well, good. Ted's here to answer it for you.
Whoa, Father Eric, that might have been the most anti-clerical thing I've ever heard you say.
So when I'm in Puerto Rico right now, I've been noticing a big shift more mainstream evangelicalism with like I was walking down the street and there was like evangelical pop-ups as well as like walking around. I heard more pretty much like prosperity gospel, I guess, coming from like people's radios and everything like that. And I guess the question is, I've been hearing that like I guess the Latino community is moving away from Catholicism to evangelicalism. Is that true? Have you seen that in your guys' experience, or is that made up?
Yep, that's pretty daggone true. So this kind of relates to some of the stuff we were talking about at the beginning, and the way that we'll say. So there was this big movement in the 1960s and 70s, especially in Latin American countries, which is called liberation theology. It's a big thing. It's kind of mixed up with a whole lot of other things, so it can be a little bit hard to suss out sometimes. But the basic point was that Jesus wants to liberate people, and he wants to liberate people entirely. He doesn't want to just like liberate their souls as if those were somehow separate from the rest of their lives. And so when you are experiencing inequality, Jesus wants to liberate you from that too. And these people who are oppressing you, they're not good because they're oppressing you. And so Jesus is on your side against them. And so if you've got a discerning eye, you may hear, oh boy, that sounds an awful lot like Marxism. And that was the response of the Vatican II under the of the Vatican as well, under the leadership of Cardinal Ratzinger, who later became Benedict XVI. Was like, that sounds like you're just practicing Marxism with Catholic flavoring on top. But a lot of the clergy bought into that, and people don't want politics in church, right? What they want is the gospel. And so these evangelicals, they came in, they saw an opportunity, they started preaching something. I guess it's moving more in a prosperity direction, but that sounds a little more gospel-y than all this liberation theology mumbo jumbo. So basically, my condemnation is that the priests stopped doing their job, stopped preaching the gospel, started preaching politics, and well, what do you expect is going to happen? You want to keep people around for that? It's utterly uninspiring.
Can I ask about an alternative theory? Actually, you go, Ted.
Oh, Trey, I was just gonna say, yes. Are you in Puerto? I don't know if you said you're in Puerto Rico right now. Or you've been in Puerto Rico? Yeah. So I lived in Peru for 2 years on and off, about a half a decade ago, and William Branch is dead on. I mean, you saw this like whole, just like so. They called it Pentecostal light. It was like Pentecostalism, evangelicalism, sort of like you port in like the Hillsong and the Hillsong and the Bethel music, and then you get slain in the spirit. And so that was one part of it. And they're all like, they're setting up these little churches in like storefronts and that they've rented out of malls, and that was one part. And then the Seventh-day Adventists and the Mormons were just like, and the JWs just everywhere. And it's a sort of like, hey, you've got a really chaotic society. Why don't you come over here where things are like orderly and we have a nice website and the grounds are swept. So saw a lot of that too. Yeah. So I was just gonna say my experience in Peru was like dead on with that.
Okay. Well, I'm not disagreeing with the liberation theology point, but I guess my question is, evangelicalism just seems like a closer idea towards atheism, pretty much, if I'm being honest, or at least secularity, at least if you're going to Catholicism.
It is flattening things out, I will say that.
Like the closer your worship looks to normal society, meaning that's what it's going to become, I think. And
Right.
do you think that it's more from liberation theology, or do you think it's just like secularity? Because I think
it's
that
you probably actually need a multi-factor analysis to really get at it, and I don't have all of that. Theology is what I know, so that's the first thing I go for. And I know some people were disgusted with all the politics coming into the church, but there's probably a multitude of reasons. I heard this really funny story once where these guys wanted to get out of the cartels. They'd been baptized Catholic, right? Because lots of people are just kind of baptized Catholic, but they want to get out of the cartels. So thank God, for that. But they couldn't start going to the Catholic Church. Like that wasn't enough. They had to start going to the evangelical church. And like the cartels understand, if you get religion and you bail, then as long as you don't start narking, we'll let you go. This is just a story I heard, so I don't know how true it is. But like the evangelical churches, like that was like, oh boy, that guy's got religion. But the Catholic Church didn't have that valence to it, that this person's getting religion. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that.
Well,
I have some theories.
Okay. Go for it, Trey. And we'll let you think.
So, I think there was one point when we look in the Hebrew Bible, basically distinguishing like different gods. The gods are what they can do for you. The gods are what they service to you. Okay. And I think that there's a big importance, at least like Catholicism isn't going to change for you. That's a correct statement, right?
Is it going to change for you individually?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really shouldn't. It definitely will kind of shift a little bit over time because it is a living body, I think. But no, not for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that like, are there prosperity gospel Catholics? That seems like a contradiction.
I bet you if you went into a Catholic church and talked to people, you could find some who would articulate prosperity gospels. But I've never heard a Catholic preacher do that. It's just like,
right. Okay.
We've got the big crucifix up front. Like that cures you of that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty hard to avoid.
Right. So I would say that evangelicalism, at the very least, like I can't really think of a prosperity gospel person who is not an evangelical. Like it just doesn't pop in my mind, or at least some non-denominational thing. And it seems like what's going on now is we're sort of this is controversial, but I would say it's like we're pretty much doing a sort of a competition of what the gods are going to do to you. Like if you go to an evangelical church, you can be like, yeah, I want a different coffee. Yeah, I don't like this worship leader. Yes, I want different lights. You go to the Catholic Church, they're going to be like, no, God doesn't care. Like, get on with it.
He kind of cares, but he's not just going to do what you want.
Well, because the thing is that God loves you too much to do what you want. I mean, like, I don't know. Because, I mean, one of the ways that you can read the Divine Comedy, because I can't be anywhere for more than 10 minutes without bringing up the Divine Comedy, apparently, is to see it as everyone gets what they ask for. So the question is not, are you going to get what you ask for, but are you asking for the right thing? And Trey, like what we're talking about there is like what I call it the magical mindset. It's the fundamental valence that a person has towards reality is: am I going to conform to what exists, or I'm going to try to bend reality towards my desires? Now, there's levels to that, obviously, because like we make houses, we try to order things, but the higher up you go, the more that you're trying to bend things towards yourself, the more dangerous it gets spiritually. And like fundamentally, magic is about manipulation. And so when I look at the prosperity gospel, I would actually call that magic and not religion in the way that I think about things. Because it's about saying, if you do these things, you will be guaranteed these results. So magic is about producing certain results. Religion is about the transformation of the self towards some final telos.
Right. Well, like
I'm getting a nod from Jacob.
Are people, people who see God as a divine, as a big vending machine in the sky. You put in the right coins and you get what you ordered. And like, if that's your view of God, then you view God as your servant.
Yeah.
well, that's not how the Israelites. I mean, when they were talking about Baal, they didn't really say like this is magic. They believed it to be religion in some context, and it seems like it would be more closer to Elijah and like I forgot the Baal worshippers, right?
Yeah.
They're both basically trying to see what their God could do.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. So that's why I'm saying it's a mindset, right? Because real, like, going to the evangelical service isn't magic. I don't know how much actual, like when I say actual, I mean effective magic there is in realities it's currently constituted. But like most of the definitions you would use to define magic, say in the Renaissance, would cover things like the sort of technology we're doing now. And so when I look at the way that we treat religion, it totally makes sense to me that we think, oh yeah, God's probably like that too, right? It's the one way to put it is to take reality from an ends to a means. It's the movement from ends to means. And so I get what you're saying, but again, I think so. Like the weird caveat to this is it's like, but God still does things for you, but you just like you have to learn to want the kinds of things God does for you. Right. So it's not that he doesn't do good things for you. It's just that like our tastes are bad. And
he
this
answers
again is why
prayers according to his own will.
Yeah.
Techno
sorcery. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, techno sorcery, and I want to specifically highlight the role of music because I think Sam Adams has pointed to that well. It's like how important the music is to that Sunday morning experience that you've got. And I tell you what, I've been hit by it. Like I'm not even a praise and worship fan, but I've been like, made to go to these things sometimes out of obedience. And it's like, you just get that four on the floor. You get that really Dionysian and bit where you just kind of getting lulled into a trance there. And then everything starts getting louder and everybody starts shouting and everybody's swaying together. And all of a sudden, you thought you were rational, but you're not actually rational because you're crying now. And why are you crying? And you're vowing to God that you're going to be better, It's just... Right,
but like I would say a Death Grips concert is going to be better than that. Like I'm going to have more raw emotions, and I think that there was
if you've been to one of these mega churches, they get you.
Yeah, but they don't have mosh pits. If they had mosh pits, that'd be an upgrade. But my point is
only a young man would say that, and I don't mean that as an insult.
No, but my point is I think someone said that like it was a dumb comment, but it kind of hit me in a big way where someone was like, I stopped going to church because I realized I got a better experience at a rock concert. I got the same sort of emotions. And I think that at the very least, what you're trying to do is like, look at this carrot. Free rock concert. And then when somebody gets it for like less work, it's a good trade.
Yeah, if that's the way you want to handle things, then go for it,
Can we talk about this comment? Because this is like, there have been 3 or 4 times where this is like passed in front of my, and I've never had a chance to respond to something like this. So going to mass to mechanically receive grace is magic. No. And I'd say that's only true if you think that receiving grace is receiving what you want And like, this is my point. Receiving grace is not receiving what you want. Grace is what you need. Like we like of ourselves actually don't usually want what grace would do to us. Right?
And
Like I
if you-
think of St. Augustine's prayer, Lord, make me chaste, just not today. Right? It's like we don't usually, like, you have to learn to want the things that grace gives you. And so I would say this is actually, again, the absolute not magic. What's promised by going to Mass is the capacity to be transformed into the likeness of Christ, not to be given the capacity to transform reality to your desire.
Right. And I think you've read Flannery O'Connor, right?
Once or twice, maybe a little bit.
So Flannery O'Connor, mid-century American Catholic author, and her main theme was the grace of God manifesting in grotesque and extreme situations.
Mhm.
And so it's like you read these stories, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is just the most violent and wicked and strange stuff I've ever read in my life. Like how did this tiny sick Catholic girl in the South write this? But she was
Yeah.
really just wrestling with the idea of, like, we got this Southern Gothic literary stream. How does the grace of God manifest in that?
Yeah. And it's like being killed by bulls and getting weird tattoos on your back, and like
Grandma
being,
takes 3 shots in the chest.
Yeah, grandma takes 3 shots in the chest, or you have some vision of heaven in a transfigured hog barn.
Some guy runs off with your fake leg. It's just the most wild. But it's the grace of God in these things. So Flannery O'Connor, yeah. And so basically, and it's like none of the people in the stories either are asking for any grace whatsoever.
That's right.
But it shows up whether you want it or not. That's what the grace of God is like.
Yeah.
So if you're a believer and you start getting that cross on your back, like what you want to do is be like, why did you do this to me, God? I could have things way easier right now if I wasn't here to take the expedient little shortcut, not have this problem anymore. And literally the only reason I'm dragging this daggone thing around is because of personal loyalty to you. That's what grace is like.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not
Phlebas,
good feeling on a Sunday morning.
Phlebas is trying to, and I would say failing, defend Protestant ideas of, like, it's faith, not works righteousness, stuff like that. Look, there's a reason why I don't think any other religion, like, I don't think, I know Judaism, I know Islam doesn't have this idea that the way you prove you have faith in God is by not actually doing any of the things that he commands and not hoping to, like, you turn towards God. You are given a capacity by God, Deuteronomy 30, to turn towards God. And it's a process of sanctification. It is not something, the fact that you can turn towards God, the fact that you even exist comes from God. So it's not a denial of the sovereignty of God. It is an affirmation of the desire of God that he wants us to desire him. And so there is an awakening, an arousal from below, which elicits an arousal of God's kindness and goodness towards us. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with you initiating and with you wanting to be closer to God. There's a lot right with that. And so anytime I hear people like making this works righteousness argument, it just seems very perverse to me. And with that, we kind of have to go because we have a board meeting. where we're going to hopefully do works righteousness. We have a charity where we're going to do good things because that's what God wants.
Very good. Are you going to continue broadcasting on this on your channel? Or
About to remove that. So
okay, I'm going to post.
to.
I'm going to post the link to this video for those who would want to continue to stay. It should be in the chat right now. You should be able to see it, hopefully at all destinations. I'm not sure I can post that to yours.
Not Twitter. You should be able to see it on the thing on my YouTube though. Let me just redo it just in case.
Yeah. In case anybody just wants to keep the thing going and they don't know how to spell my last name. That's there we go. Now I see it. Should be there. So, you guys do good. Be humble. Stay hungry.
Will do. At least the last part.
All righty.
You know, I think that, like, at least for